Hello everyone, today we are doing 5 cool but random little Edinburgh history stories. So there's these little stories that I've been trying to figure out where to put into videos for a little while, and I probably could get them into individual stories with different things, but I thought it'd actually just be nice just to do the 5 wee stories together because I like them. But before we get started, I've got a couple of shout outs because you guys have been like awesome since last week. Since I asked you to sort of suggest videos, you have. Oh, you have. And I will get round to them all, but I've got a couple of little thank yous, wee shout outs, so bear with me for just 30 seconds. Karen and Gemma both wanted me to go around tea rooms, so I'll grab Kirsten for that one and we'll go around a load of tea rooms because I think it'd be odd me just sitting in a tea room on my own going, yes, bring me all the tea and cakes, please. Actually, no. So yeah, but thank you for that. I didn't know that it was such a big thing. I think Karen was saying she was going to come to Edinburgh and go on essentially a tea room crawl, so that sounds cool. So yeah, we'll definitely get around to that at some point. GG Driggers wanted me to do a series on going down all the individual Edinburgh closes and telling the stories and seeing what's down, because some of them have got cool stuff, some of them have got nothing, some of them have got cool stuff and some of them have got cool stories. So yeah, that's probably going to be a big one. That'll be like a series. And a shout out to the Viking from Denmark, purely just because it's an awesome name. And lastly, which was a big one, which is what I was going to do this week, but the more I research it, the bigger it is, and it's getting bigger and bigger, but I think it's a really important video to do and I really want to do it. The Struggler 1000 wanted me to do a video on wheelchair accessible attractions and places in Edinburgh as well. It's a brilliant idea, it's a really good video, and I have to say I wouldn't have thought of it unless you'd suggested it. It's not something that would have came into my head to do. So I am going to do this one. However, the more I've been researching it, the more I've been going, should I include Braille? Should I include audio description? All these sort of things. So it's getting bigger and bigger. So the Struggler 1000, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reply to one of your comments again, but just with a list and some hints and tips, so that at least if I don't get it done before you visit, you'll at least have some clue of little things and hints and tips and what I've seen so far. I'm at Arthur's Seat right now. Look, there it is. You see it? You might not be able to see it. There's a big hill in the way. No? Arthur's Seat's just behind me here with Salisbury Crags. Now, this is kind of a freaky story. 1836. Some young lads were going up Arthur's Seat for actually hunting and things, I think. They were going to hunt rabbits, trying to get their dinner, probably. They were young lads, they weren't, they were mucking about as they did it, as us young lads tend to do. They discovered these little dolls in coffins, which sounds weird, and it is. They found 17 little coffins, hand-carved wooden coffins, with little hand-carved people inside each one individually done, each one individual clothing that matched the era as well, obviously, as it would. They had absolutely no idea where they were. They were in 3 tiers underneath this stone. There was one layer at the bottom of 8, another layer of 8, and then one on top. And they were all kind of, it didn't look like they'd all went in at the same time. They'd went in at different times, the bottom layer first, and then at some period later, the next layer, and then the last one. No one has got any idea why they were there. Who put them there, what they're for, no one knows. Just do not have a clue what that is all about. You can see them. They still exist. They are at the Edinburgh Museum, not the Edinburgh Museum, the National Museum of Scotland in Edinburgh. I'm actually going to head to the museum for another wee story for this that just popped into my head, and I thought, why don't I have a look while I'm there? What? You know what? The brain power that goes on in this bald cap of mine is, I mean, it could power nothing. So these little dolls, they've got absolutely no idea who put them there or what they're for, and they're kind of freaky. There's a couple of theories. One was obviously witchcraft. It was, you know, it's always been a thing in Edinburgh history. Witchcraft in Scottish history, it plays a big part of Edinburgh and Scottish history. So that was obviously one of the things they jumped to. An old Saxon tradition where you would bury a little figure thing for someone who you knew who had died far away. So obviously this person knew 17 people who had died far away from them. So if you were friends with that person, you probably wouldn't want to leave their side, really, for fear of dying. There was also a theory that it was, apparently there was a tradition of sailors' wives. If their husband died at sea, they would bury this little thing as well. So they've no idea if there was any of them, if any of them are what it was. The ones that everyone thinks, and what they've got their name as now, is the Birkenhair dolls. People think that it might be something to do with that, because the Birkenhair, famous, well, they're called grave robbers, but they never robbed a grave in their life. This was about 10 years after that, so some people thought, and it was 17, and they killed 17 people. So everyone thought that maybe it was something to do with that as well. But it's a complete guess. That's freaky, isn't it? Okay, story number 2. I have now came to the old Carlton burial ground, which is just at one end of Princess Street, just at the start of Carlton Hill. Now, if you're going to come here, don't get confused, don't be confused with the new Carlton burial ground. This is the old Carlton burial ground, and slightly up the road there's a new Carlton burial ground. Now you might be confused because they look kind of similar. The new Carlton burial ground is still quite old, so although you may think this is the old Carlton burial ground, it's still the new Carlton burial ground. I'm in the old Carlton burial ground, which you can see looks old. Now don't get me confused, they are both old, and you may think that an expert like myself would not get them confused, and you're right, I would not end up in the new Carlton burial ground and have to wander to the old one. Anyway, so the reason I've come here is because there's a little link to our cousins across the sea here. So the statue beside me was built in 1893. I know you've not seen it yet, hang on. It was built in memory of some soldiers who went over and fought in America. Those soldiers were, sorry, I've got my notes here because I'm not an encyclopedia. Those soldiers were Sergeant Major John McEwen, Lieutenant Colonel William Duff, Robert Steedman, James Wilkie, Alexander Smith and Robert Ferguson. They were 5 children of Edinburgh, men of Edinburgh, who went and fought for Abraham Lincoln to help free the slaves. That was why they went over and fought in America. Now, afterwards, quite a bit afterwards, once the colonel died, his wife had problems trying to claim his pension money, because she was over here and the pension money was over in America, so she had a little trouble. So she went to US Counsel Wallace Burns to help. Now I don't know if this maybe brought this to the attention of the history over there, but afterwards a statue was built here in Edinburgh to remember those soldiers, and it was actually, the money was raised by John D. Rockefeller. Yep, that Rockefeller. So yeah, so this was built in 1893. And there we have Mr. Abraham Lincoln here in the centre of Edinburgh. There's a couple of things to point out on this as well. There is also, this is supposed to be the American flag, which is draped by thistles. And there's supposed to be cotton there as well somewhere, but I can't actually see it. So there you have it, right in the heart of Edinburgh. Statue to Abraham Lincoln and the people who fought. I actually only found out about that a little while ago, and again, you know, I researched lots of random things because I want to tell you lots of random things. This is things that people might not realise, and I had no idea. Why would you expect a statue of Abraham Lincoln to be right off Princess Street in Edinburgh? I should also say about the statue, which I forgot, it was actually built in America and was shipped over from America to here. But again, it was about $6,500 at the time. I mean, that's not a small amount of money now, but back then that would have been a massive amount of money. Back in the Royal Mile, because it wouldn't be me unless I came to the Royal Mile. I'd be breaking one of my own rules, I think. This is one of my favourite stories because of the ridiculousness of it, or the complete obviousness of it to anyone who doesn't like paying tax. In 1748 there was a law that came in called the window tax. Now the logic behind it was the richer you had, the richer you were, obviously the more money you had. Meaning the more lavish a house you had, meaning the more windows you had. Can you see the logic there? So, you got taxed on how many windows you had. Simple as that. That was a simple way to work out how much tax you paid, how many windows you had in your house. Now, I'm sure you're already starting to figure out the easy way to avoid paying a lot of tax. Block up your windows. So that's what people started to do. To avoid paying a lot of tax, people started to block up your windows. So if you look around Edinburgh, some of these windows have still been blocked up. There's one on the Royal Mile, just up here. So just so you know where I am, there's the Royal McGregor, there's Subway, there's the Royal Mile factory, and if we look up, there's a window that's still blocked up. I know, it seems like a ridiculous idea, and that seems like a really obvious solution if you don't want to pay tax. But the thing is, they didn't say, no, you had a window and you blocked it up. That then counted. Your tax went down, you got blocked up your window, so then people were blocking up windows left, right and centre. Now this tax went on for a while. They didn't just stop it right away, it went on for a while. But eventually they got rid of it because they were starting to get worried about people's health. Vitamin D deficiency. People started to, you know, be the colour that I naturally am, a pale blue. It takes me about a week and a half of tanning to go white. But that's because I'm Scottish. But yeah, people started, you know, deteriorating in health because they'd be like that for years, living in a house with no windows for years so that they paid less tax. And that is some thought to be where the phrase daylight robbery comes from. Window tax. So here we are again in Greyfriars Kirkyard. Is surrounded by tours today. I've got a Spanish tour over there, I've got a Scottish history tour over there, I've got another one over there. There's a Harry Potter tour that goes around town that comes in here as well, for obvious reasons. You're not sure why? See the link with Harry Potter things to do in Edinburgh. But the reason I'm here today is not for Greyfriars Bobby, it's not for Harry Potter, it's for Ebenezer Scrooge. Charles Dickens came into this graveyard, as many writers have done, many writers who have essentially shaped literature. I'm not even going to say Scottish literature, I'm just going to say literature, have wandered around this graveyard and been inspired by the sights or the names or anything. But yeah, Charles Dickens was wandering about in here and he came across a gravestone and he went, that's it. That's the one. That's the name right there. And the story was born inside his head somewhere, and then he started to write away. That name was, of course, Ebenezer Scrooge. But it wasn't. See, this is the thing. He misread it. And it wasn't. The gravestone in here, sorry, isn't Ebenezer Scrooge. It's Ebenezer Scroogey. Kind of that person, but kind of not. Because it's Ebenezer Scroogey. Somehow, if he had, maybe, well, the story is he misread it, but you know, maybe he read it and went, Scroogey's not quite right, but Scrooge, however, is better. Maybe he misread it, maybe a little bit artistic license, but there's something about Scroogey that just sounds very Scottish. Very Scottish about not wanting to give any money away. I'm a little bit Scroogey, you know. No, don't come at me for money, I'm a wee bit Scroogey the day. And that gravestone gave birth to A Christmas Carol. The story we all know and love, one of my favourites. However, there are many iconic versions of that. And I think you'll all agree with me, the best telling, my personal favourite, A Muppet Christmas Carol. It is 100% hands down the best version of that. Last but by no means least, I'm going to head into the National Museum of Scotland. Lots of people gathered round Greyfriars Bobby's statue there. Do me a favour, when you come and you see people rubbing the nose, can you shout at them? Don't rub the nose! Poor nose is being worn away. We've been trying to stop people doing it for years and people are like, oh, it's shiny! Don't rub the nose! So before I go on to tell you the story that I'm going to tell you, look what I found. That's them. That is the dolls I was telling you about at the beginning of the video. It's actually the first time I've seen them in person. I've known about them for a while, but I've never actually came to see them. They're a lot smaller than I thought they were. They are tiny. They are tiny. Now I'm in the National Museum of Scotland right now, but as you look at it, as you look at the building, the far right hand side, which is quite obviously the newest part of the building, it's all Scottish history in here. The rest of the museum, the older part of the museum, is the whole world, but just this section is the Scottish part. That's where that is. It's tucked at the back. It's actually quite hard to find things. But what I'm here to show you is the Maiden. The Maiden is the Scottish guillotine, the Scottish version of the guillotine. It's actually way older than the French guillotine. The thing is about it is it's made of oak. It's about 4 or 5 metres high. It's got a big lead weight and it's got an iron cast blade. The big difference, the blade's blunt. It was used for about 143, 144 years, killed about 150 people. Believe it or not, it was built to be transported. I mean, look at it, it's massive, it's made of solid wood and things. But that was moved about Edinburgh, the Grassmarket, Castle Hill, the Royal Mile. It did executions all over town, so I'm guessing, I don't know, this is a guess, educated guess, as much as I'm educated. But I think it was kind of used for more important people, people who were really making a show off. If you were getting hung, you were just your normal person. If you were getting the Maiden, that meant you would deserve to get it. Because I've heard stories that sometimes, obviously it was a blunt blade, didn't cut through. If it didn't cut through, they'd take it up and drop it again, and they'd take it up and drop it again. That is some brutal, brutal way to be killed. And there you have it, guys. I should say as well that the Maiden was used from 1564 to 1710. So about 140 odd something years. That's math that I'm way not going to do right now. This was just random videos. These are just little stories that I wanted to tell you, and I'm sure I could have fitted them into somewhere, but I just thought it'd be nice to give you 5 little random stories. So yeah, that's about it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, do the likey thing and subscribe, that'd be great. You know I'm not a fan of asking, but I'm asking anyway. Please keep the suggestions coming. I'm loving getting all these ideas for videos. I'm getting a big list, compiling a big list, and I'll gradually get through them, and me and Kirsten will go out and about as well, and it'll be great. We'll have a great time. Someone suggested dog-friendly places in Edinburgh, so I can't take both the boys with me. Neville and Merlin. Merlin I can take, Neville would just go mental. He'd be too excited to be running about hyper. In fact, it's 4 years ago today that we got Neville, so I'll need to go and buy him a wee special treat today. I'm getting sidetracked again. God, go off, don't. This was supposed to be me saying goodbye, and now I'm telling you about other stuff. I wonder if... Totally did that on purpose. Till next time. Bye, humans.